Welcome to the Market Mystics podcast. I'm Joshua.
I'm Kim. Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back.
Hello, everyone.
Josh, how are you today?
I'm doing really good. I have one of my favorite Waterloo sparkling waters with me.
What kind is it?
And blackberry lemonade.
That's one of your favorites.
I think it's great.
That's one of my least favorites.
I'm so sorry.
You know what one of my favorites is that you would say is hell no?
Something with coconut.
It is the coconut one. It is so good.
Yeah. We could just trade. I'll give you all the coconut ones and you can give me all the blackberry lemonade ones.
Okay. That's a deal. You've got yourself a deal, Joshua. Okay, so you've got your favorite Waterloo.
Yeah. And I'm doing good.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm so glad.
How about you?
Doing okay today.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about convictions and sticking to your guns and easing up.
Easing up?
Like,
Yeah.
kind of both sides of the coin.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted to do this because this episode is being released on Halloween, which just maybe I shouldn't reveal this until later. It's a hell no for me.
Yeah.
It is just like, I cannot get on board with it. And it came from conviction. I learned some things and I just can't go back on it. However, there are other things that I've had major convictions about, and I had to be like, hell no with that. And then after some time, all of a sudden that conviction lifted and it was kind of fine. Sometimes it's like proceed with caution. But I kind of wanted to talk about that, I don't know, that topic of conviction and what to do with that.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. One of the things we were talking about before was like learning to discern between conviction and religion. Like, am I saying this? Is this my opinion because it's what I'm supposed to believe? It's what I've been told I should believe, or because it's truly a conviction? And like my thought with that is like, you have to assume it's conviction until you know otherwise. Like, even if religion gave it to you, like, it's hard to like step out of that. Like, go ahead, expand your view, ask the Father, be in relationship. But if it's a no in you, then to say, oh man, I'm worried this is religion, so I'm going to say yes. Like, you're creating an internal conflict inside yourself. You're creating division, and that is not going to be successful. Like, you're not going to love life if you do that.
Yeah. Josh, can you talk about maybe an instance of like learning that hell no and maybe one where you had to stick to your guns and maybe one where it wound up easing up?
Yeah. I mean, I know this is kind of one for both of us where it flip-flop, but like Christmas was really hard for a little while. Like, learning like, okay, like Jesus wasn't actually born in December, and learning some of the things that Christianity adopted and brought into the celebration of Christmas, and where they came from and what they meant. And it's like, okay, like I went through probably 2 years where I had a really hard time participating in Christmas.
Same.
And then probably 2 years ago, like it just kind of fell away. And I was like, it doesn't carry the same weight to me anymore. I still understand the truth of it. or at least the truth as I've learned it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not celebrating it with the same mindset anymore, but I still really enjoy it. Like, I really enjoy Christmas movies. There's something magical about that time of year. And now I just enjoy it for what it is. Yeah. And I'm trying to think of like one where I've really had to stick with it. When I was a kid, we absolutely did not celebrate Halloween. It was a big no. But what my parents did for us was like, we got a big bag of candy, we got some popcorn, and we did a family movie night in the dark. And we all loved it. Like, we were talking about this like with your kid, like I never felt like I was missing out on anything because I got everything all my friends did and I didn't have to go do anything. Um, and so like, as I grew up, I went to a few Halloween parties and did some things, but like it's not one that like draws me. Like, I'm not overly excited about it. I rarely think about it other than like acknowledging that, oh yeah, that's today. But I rarely like get caught up in like, oh my gosh, it's the Halloween season. Like, I just don't care. And so maybe that's one where conviction has stayed a little bit more. I don't necessarily have like like I don't know what I will do when I have kids, I guess. But as for me, like it just doesn't carry any draw. Like there's no excitement in me, other than I really enjoy candy corn. So I'm just like, this time of season, like I want that wax. Like I want that flavored wax. It's so good.
Hilarious. There are like two kinds of people in this world.
Yeah.
Those who like candy corn and those who don't.
Yeah, I've always liked it. I've always like whatever it is, I've enjoyed it.
So do you like the actual like candy corn traditional white, orange, yellow? Or do you like the pumpkins that are kind of candy corn? Or there are ones with brown?
I do prefer the just traditional white, orange, yellow. The pumpkins are okay. The brown ones are gross. I will bite off the brown part and throw them away.
Really?
Yeah.
This is fascinating.
It's like fake
this is like
chocolate.
A real. Oh, I love it.
It's like
I don't love that. I love this look into your psychology.
I don't love that like the fake chocolate taste. I'm not a huge chocolate person to begin with, and that fake chocolate taste I just don't like.
You're not a huge chocolate person?
No. I mean, I have
Josh, we've had experiences with like chocolate bars after dinner with wine.
Yeah, that's totally fine. But I'm like I don't mind a chocolate bar, but I really don't like chocolate cake and I really don't like chocolate ice cream. And it just, there's something about it. It's not my favorite. I could live without it. I enjoy like a nice, like a nice piece of dark chocolate with like sea salt or something. Like that's great. But I could also live without it and be fine.
You're blowing my mind today. Okay, this is along the same sidetrack. One time we were in Paris. We were stuck in Paris for like 24 hours. And we went to McDonald's and they had a chocolate hamburger. And I totally ate it.
Yeah.
And it was a completely different experience.
McDonald's wild. In France was a totally different experience to begin with.
That's true. It was kind of fancy.
Yeah, and having like a whole separate bakery inside the McDonald's was kind of wild.
That's true. That's true. Okay, back to the topic.
Yes. What about
this
you?
Is what,
like, I know we talked a little bit about Christmas and a little bit like now Halloween is that for you, but like, what does it feel? Does that conviction feel like? Is there anything in you that's like would waver on that conviction, or like at this moment, is it still just like I could never see myself celebrating it or participating in it?
I don't know about never. But for right now, it's still like a hard no.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like blurry lines to me. And I have, I've had multiple things over the years that have been like hard no's. For instance, a few years ago, it was mermaids. Like I got real warned off of mermaids. We should have like bonus content about the mermalia. Is that, could we just call it that? The lore of the mermaids?
Sure.
But there were some encounters and some experiences and things that really put me off of that. And it was 100% conviction. And my daughter, who was like 3 or 4, I had to be like, sorry, no mermaids. We're not doing mermaids. I remember one day at the park, there was a girl who was like, let's pretend to be mermaids. And she was like, we don't do mermaids.
Got to teach them.
I know. But then over some time, that's eased up a bit, like a little. It doesn't like negate the like being careful or aware of some of those things, but it also leaves space for not assuming only bad or death. Like,
Sure.
Is there room to find life? Yeah. However, with Halloween, I did grow up doing Halloween, dressing up and trick-or-treating and whatever. Like, it was never taboo in my household. And a few years ago, I got some conviction, and then I read into some of the things behind it and the meaning of some of the things that have otherwise been readily participated in. And it was like complete switch off, like turn the breaker off. All energy going to that is done. Mm-hmm. And it just feels really dark to me still. And at this point, I don't have it in me to like back off from that. It could be like mermaids and it could ease up later on down the road. But we were talking about this. I was telling Josh, like, am I ruining my kid's childhood? You know, I mean, because she goes to a very small Christian school, but I mean, they're doing a fall party and they're dressing up and it's all Halloween stuff. And I still don't want to allow that because I don't want to open that door.
Yeah, that was
because I know stuff that's attached.
That was the next question I was going to ask was like, what do you do with like fall fest or trunk or treats like that are like borderline but not exactly Halloween? Like
it's funny because it's like playing Halloween with Halloween, like putting this mask on, like, oh, we're not doing that, except we're doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah,
it's just wild. And I can give heed to like an effort to turn it into something that isn't based on that, except it's kind of like the whole Christmas concept. Mm-hmm. If you know the history of Christmas and like why it's in December and all these things, like it's just this mask to still celebrate the thing. Like, the words aren't even changed that much. Yeah. You know, I mean, it's kind of exactly the same concept. And for me, I don't know, the conviction is just still there. And so it's still hell no for me, Hellnoween. But I don't want my kids to feel like I've cheated them out of like childhood experiences. But I also do the same thing. I don't do the popcorn at movies, but I think that's brilliant. I have always just got them candy anyway. Yeah. All your friends are ending up with candy at the end of the day, and you can end up with candy too. Yeah. But I don't know, maybe it'll ease up. And I can't definitively say right now that it never will. But for now, and I was telling you this before, and I'm glad you brought it up, I still wonder, like, is it conviction, or am I just turning this into a religion, into a religious act or religious belief or something like that? Because I also don't want to go there.
Yeah.
But when I lean into that with the Lord, I haven't gotten any like, okay, it's fine. Like we did for Christmas. We learned all these things about Christmas. We were like warned off of that for a couple years. It was a few of us in our friend group who kind of all had this same season of that or similar seasons. And then all of a sudden it eased up. And then it was like, no, it's fine to do it. But it was like the stuff that was attached to it that wasn't needing to be attached to it came off. And then it just became a time of tradition and family. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, Halloween carries a different feel than Christmas. Like, not nearly as much, at least in the friend groups I've had. Maybe not in everyone's life, but like not quite the same level of like family togetherness or like some of the things that really make Christmas special. Like, it's just kind of a day to get what you want or get sugar, pump your kid full of carcinogenic sugars. Like
maybe we should do bonus content about that too.
Maybe so. But one of the things that I really value now about my childhood is like, we didn't do Santa Claus growing up. That was like absolutely not. And we didn't do Halloween. And we really didn't do the Easter Bunny. We didn't do the Tooth Fairy. Like, there's a lot of things like that my family just didn't do. And it never felt lacking because it was always replaced with something better in my mind. And so it never felt like something I didn't get to have. And now as an adult, I'm like, oh yeah, like thinking about what would I do with my kids when I have kids? Like, how would I deal with that? And like, my brother has done different things with his kids. And, but like, I see the value in like, oh yeah, like I can, it doesn't have to be the way everyone else does it, and you can still enjoy it. Like, you don't have to follow the social norm to still have a fun time with that. And I really value that now, looking back at my childhood. Like, oh yeah, I didn't feel like I missed out on anything. I loved those days. So I think that's good. But also, like, on the conviction topic, like, I really believe that being authentic within yourself is one of the most important things you can do. And so if your body is saying Hellnoween, then like, you gotta stick with that.
Yeah.
And because like, that's, to me, that's like the house divided that cannot stand, like, that the Bible talks about. Like, I think it has more to do with yourself and your head and your heart than it does. I mean, yes, it applies in every area, but I think first it has to apply in your heart. And so when you have those convictions and you're wrestling with, is this conviction, is it religion, is it, what is it, like, whatever is authentic at the moment, that's got to be what you stay with until you get different information. And that doesn't mean it can't change, doesn't mean you can't consider other opinions. But I do think you should be authentically you, whatever that looks like.
I think that's a really good word. I was going to say a little bit also. I want to say that just because it is Hellnoween for me doesn't necessarily mean that it is Hellnoween for everyone.
Yeah.
Or just because we didn't do Christmas for a while, that doesn't mean that that's prescriptive and no one should. Just because I had to say no to mermaids doesn't mean that everyone should have to. I think this is such an individual thing. And I think there are general principles like to take into account, but I think you need to take that individually back to the Lord and wrestle with that between you and him, because it may not hold the same stigmas with you as it did for me. And it may not take as long. Like maybe he has you unwind from it, but maybe it takes 4 hours instead of 2 years. I don't know. And I just think it's such an individual thing. And it's so hard when you hear people who have a voice publicly talk about some of these things that they're personally convicted about. And I think it is very fair to share those things. But instead of making it doctrine, I think that should spur a person on to go seek on their own behalf.
Yeah. I was just talking with your husband, Jason, earlier today about this in the political arena, because he was talking about posts he was seeing where it was like, if you call yourself a Christian, this has to be your stance. Mm-hmm. And instead of saying, hey, based on my experience with God and my like belief as a Christian, this is what I have found and what I believe. Like instead of sharing it as like, this is what I've learned, this is my opinion, but sharing it as like, if you're not this, then you're this. Like that's it, you're immediately putting someone in an us and them category. And we don't want to do that with these holidays we're talking about. We don't want to put you in a, well, you know, I'm either with them or I'm not with them. Like we want you to have your own experience, your own relationship, and to make decisions based on what you read in the Bible, based on your relationship with God, based on the communities you're a part of. Like all these things impact and influence that. And that should all be taken into account when you're making these decisions. And we don't ever want it to be a us and them situation.
Agreed. And honestly, if people are earnestly seeking on their own and acting according to their own convictions, I have nothing but respect and honor for that. Even if it looks like the polar opposite of what I've been told and what is okay for me to do. And I think this goes way back. Josh, how much have we talked about responsibility this year?
A lot.
I mean, this might be the year of responsibility. I think it goes back to taking responsibility for your own actions, right? And what's right for one may not be right for the other, but that doesn't make one innately good or innately bad.
Yeah.
It just makes it right for that person. It makes this right for that person. Mm-hmm. And instead of having to live our lives proving to ourselves and everyone else that we're right, I think it's perfectly fine and healthy to live our lives according to our own convictions and respecting that others are doing the same.
Yeah.
Which would be a good lead into our next episode about the election. So
come back in a few days and check that out.
Right.
Yeah. No,
I bet people are just dying to hear what we have to say politically.
I doubt it. But we're going to share it anyways. Because our next episode will release the day before Election Day. So I hope you guys come back for it.
You should definitely tune back in. It may not be what you think it will be.
That's true. Or it might be exactly what you think it'll be if you've listened to us for a little while.
I mean, that's true too. How many of our friends are listening to this and they're like, I already know what they're going to say?
Probably more than one.
That's probably true.
That's good. Good stuff today. Thanks for bringing the topic. Thanks for being willing to dive into your life and how you guys choose to celebrate or not celebrate Hellnoween.
All good. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
Hey, thanks for listening. Keep up with us along this journey by liking, subscribing, and becoming a member through YouTube.
Members get exclusive access to bonus content with our guests, deeper dives into topics, and a look into other projects. We're glad to have you here. See you next time.